My Lord, the sitting of the House will begin shortly. I thank you for your patience. The hybrid sitting of the House will now resume. The question to an answer of an urgent question in the House of Commons on Tuesday the 17th, proposed parliamentary scrutiny of continuity trade agreement. Lord Stevenson of Balmacara.
The Minister in the Commons asserted that parliamentary scrutiny is central to the ongoing continuity FTA rollovers. This was good to hear, but he also said that nearly half of these treaties will be agreed under the provisional agreement mechanism, which excludes parliamentary debate before the FTA is implemented, which is not so good. However, we have the opportunity to get things right for the future when the trade bill returns to your Lordships House in early December. Will the Noble Lord the Minister agree to continue the discussions we've already had to see if we can formalise a protocol for scrutiny, building on the good work he has done in ensuring that the International Agreements Committee of this House has the papers and information it needs to carry out its valuable work?
My Lords, I very much welcome the constructive exchanges that the Noble Lord and I have had on this matter and our mutual interest in ensuring Parliament is able to carry out its scrutiny processes effectively. And I look forward to continuing this debate on this important topic during the report stage of the trade bill.
Lord Stevenson of Balmacara. Purvis, Tweed.
My Lord, any reasonable observer listening to the government statement of the potential benefits of the Japan agreement, which indicated £15 billion of growth, would have assumed that that was £15 billion of growth for the British economy. But as the impact assessment had showed, only 17.2% of that is growth for the UK, £2.6 billion of exports, and a massive 79.9% growth in Japan exports to the UK, £13 billion. Any scrutiny of any trade agreement has to be full and allow Parliament to have a proper vote at the outset and at the end. So in the ongoing discussions, and I welcome the discussions the Minister has on a cross-party basis, will he also consider the amendment that I've put down on the trade bill in my name, arguing the case for Parliament to have a vote, as the Japanese Diet has, on the actual agreement itself?
My Lords, I always consider the points that the Noble Lord makes very carefully. Of course, cheaper imports into the UK benefit the UK economy, so that is not entirely a one-sided matter in relation to the FTA. But we will continue to consider the points he makes very carefully, and I absolutely agree that Parliament has to have the information available to it to allow it to do its scrutiny processes effectively.
My Lords, I declare my interest as set out in the Register. The scrutiny arrangements in the trade bill make no reference whatsoever to climate change or the environment, either in economic assessment, impact assessments, or in other reporting mechanisms. Yet the government's Green Recovery Plan today shows how a green industrial revolution is essential and how much the future economic health of the UK will depend on success in these areas. So will the Minister look positively at how we can continue discussions and amend the trade bill to include scrutiny of these vital issues by Parliament?
I mean, the Noble Baroness makes a very good point. And I think it's very important that the impact assessment that we produce on each of these agreements does cover these matters fully, because if they're covered fully, that does allow Parliament to have that information available to it, and it does allow our debates to become more comprehensive and more effective. And as she says, these are as the Noble Baroness says, these are extremely important matters.
Lord Lansley.
My Lords, I am a member of our International Agreements Committee in this House, and it is our job to report to this House on these continuity trade agreements. On Kenya, the agreement was signed by ministers on the 3rd of November. It is to come into force on the 1st of January. We have not yet seen the text of this agreement. Now, if it is a copy and paste, why wouldn't it be shared immediately? If it involves new commitments, doesn't Parliament especially need to scrutinise them? When will we see it? How are we to conduct parliamentary scrutiny before it comes into force? And if not, is that not unsatisfactory?
Minister.
Can I first of all, my Lords, pay tribute to the work that the IAC does. I think it has a very effective mechanism. On the Kenya agreement, which my noble friend refers to specifically, it is true that agreement in principle has been reached, but there are some loose ends which are still being tied up with the Kenyan authorities. As soon as the agreement is signed, of course it will be put into the normal processes, and of course there will be full parliamentary scrutiny allowed as part of that.
Okay, no.
The Noble Lord the Minister for his and the Government's courteous engagement with the International Agreement Subcommittee over the UK-Japan Free Trade Agreement, and the report will be published in the very short coming days. In doing so, and along the same theme as others, could I ask the Noble Lord the Minister whether the Government reaffirms the commitments, statements and aspirations contained in the DIT command paper of February 2019 on free trade agreements?
Well, I thank the Noble Earl for his comments on the Japan Free Trade Agreement, and I'm sure, like other members of this House, I'm looking forward to the debate that we'll be having on that in a couple of weeks' time. Certainly, the spirit of the command paper to which the Noble Earl refers, we are following, if not the actual letter.
Lord Alton.
Yesterday in the House of Commons, Greg Hands, MP, the Trade Minister, said we are negotiating better market access in markets such as China. Today, Canada's ambassador to the United Nations, Bob Rae, has called on the UN to investigate the horrors being perpetrated in Xinjiang. Given that 180 human rights groups say that many of the world's biggest fashion brands and retailers, along with suppliers of PPE to the United Kingdom and companies such as Huawei and Volkswagen, are complicit in the forced labour and human rights violations being perpetrated on millions of Uyghur people in Xinjiang, where atrocities include torture, forced separation and the compulsory sterilisation of Uyghur women, will the Noble Lord the Minister say whether it is going to be a case of business as usual, or does he believe that where allegations of crimes against humanity or genocide are made, it should have consequences for trade with China, and will he therefore accept the amendment that I have tabled to the trade bill on the subject of genocide?
My Lords, as always, the Noble Lord always speaks about this topic with both expertise and passion. These important matters are under active consideration by the Government, and we understand that the importance that Noble Lords attach to it, and we are studying this matter very carefully.
My Lords, it is good that the Government has confirmed that we do indeed have the bandwidth to conclude the agreement with Canada in short order. Could my noble friend the Minister confirm that his department is also discussing with Canada at the same time that country's approach to our possible accession to CPTPP? And can he give a date by which the Government intends to notify CPTPP formally of our intention to accede? And will he confirm that there will be an opportunity to debate our accession to that organisation before our accession is applied for?
I mean, the noble Lord recognises, my noble friend recognises, as I do, the importance of reaching an agreement with Canada. Of course, the agreements that we will reach with Canada, the agreements we hope to reach with Australia and New Zealand, the agreement we have reached with Japan, are all vital precursors to our fulfilling our ambition to accede to the Trans-Pacific Partnership. It's a complex matter, of course, because there are 11 countries in that partnership, and it will take time to bring all that to the point where the meal can be served as opposed to just to be cooked. Of course, once we get to that point, Parliament will be fully involved.
All voting.
Will the Noble Lord the Minister please give the House the assurance that our continuity trade agreements with our African partners will support rather than undermine regional integration and the African free trade area?
The noble lord makes a good point. The free trade agreements are vitally important for the African countries. We're well seized of that. We have an active process of dialogue with them, and we look forward to strengthening those agreements as we go forward.
Baroness Kennedy of Cradley.
I'm afraid it's actually Baroness Kennedy of the Shaws. There was a mistake made in the listing. The House does not want to allow trade to be elevated above human rights. That's clear from many of the debates that we've had, and Lord Alton puts his finger on the particular problems with regard to China. Now, the government gives the right rhetorical support on this, but it's difficult to have confidence when the minister is on record as saying, and I quote, "Everything in China gets associated with politics, but we have to look through politics to help get successful business with China." And, another quote, "The fact that Xi is prepared to give such strong authoritarian guidance within the context of a market economy is great for companies like mine." I'm afraid that's not going to give a lot of assurances to those of us who are concerned about the horrors that are taking place in China.
My Lords, the noble Baroness refers back to comments I made in my previous life when I was chairing a major business in China for the United Kingdom. I think it's important to realise the context within which those comments were made. But as I have said previously at this dispatch box, I have no patience at all with authoritarian regimes, and I'm completely in agreement with the government's policy in relation to China.
My Lords, the time allowed for this question has lapsed.
My Lords, I beg to move that the House do now adjourn until 1:30.
The question is for the House to adjourn till 1:30 for the three formal motions of the report stage of the Internal Markets Bill. As many of those have been say content. Contrary not content, the content so.